how do you fit this much pigments into this? I managed to fit in 20 of my favorite watercolor pigments into this very tiny palette set. That's right, 20 and even up to 28 if I wanted to. In this video, I will be talking about modifying the regular half pan and full pan types used for watercolor sets to accommodate more choices of watercolor pigments. Before, my problem was I was only able to carry 14 half pan pigments in this palette. It's designed to accommodate 12 half pans. I had to hack the 2 extra half pans with magnet placement so I could store them inside the water basin when packed. Each half pan can approximately carry some 1.5 milliliter of paint, I measured. I personally have over 30 pigment tubes of watercolor, and most of them are in my studio palette in full 3.2 milliliter full pans. I forced myself to use only my top 14 pigments for my EDC watercolor set. It's because I didn't want to carry my full studio palette set with me at all times. I just want to carry this small watercolor paint box with a water dispenser and a water basin, or even the Winsor & Newton pocket field set that can hold up to 14 half pans and also has a water dispenser and water basin. I hear what you're going to say, but you don't need that many pigments to paint watercolor. And I've been preaching beginners to have a limited palette of just up to 8 colors so that they can learn how to make secondary and tertiary colors. Hear me out. I'd like to experiment with some uncommon mineral pigments that add granulating textures. And I'm trying to see what other pigments can modify my most common used ones. Hematite Genuine, for example, adds some spotted minuscule black dots and granulates beautifully. Green Apatite Genuine has this interesting varying orange-brown in its mix. Then I started to get to know how Winsor & Newton professional grade watercolor pigments behave. And I like them for their rich and vibrant colors compared to my usual Daniel Smith set. I'd even recently bought watercolor sticks and found them to be more ideal for putting into pans than the usual tube versions. What's interesting about making these duo capacity partition half pan, it's easy to make. I even made full pans with 3 compartments. These are commercially available but are rare. I figured they are 3D printed and not mass produced, as they are way more expensive than the regular pans. So I tried to buy these online. However, the seller took a very long time for my order to be placed, and it's been over a month. So the idea of making this hack came to me when my order of 48 half pans arrived to replenish my low stock. The price of half pans is rather affordable at only $3 per 48 pieces. So other than the pans that you need to make this hack, you will need the following: box cutter, cutting mat, glue, particularly the Zanlida B6000, metal ruler, tweezers, permanent marker for labeling, sandpaper as an optional way of shaving off the materials, face mask if you are going to be sanding. A word of caution, this requires some level of skill with the use of a box cutter. So if you're not careful or lack the control of handling a blade, do not try this hack. You will have to sacrifice some of the empty half pans as material for the partitions. So step 1, cut out walls of the sacrificial pans. The shorter walls are perfect for partitioning the half pans, while the longer ones are for the full pans. Cut enough for your intended number of finished partition pans. Step 2, carefully cut off some of the excess materials from the wall, but not too much. Make sure that you're using a sharp blade and cutting mat. Fit test these partitions to see if the dimensions are okay. Step 3, after you have finished with the necessary parts, glue in the partitions. I first apply glue on the empty pan, then use a tweezer to properly align. I first tried just with using my fingers to align, but it took longer. Then I reinforced both edge sides with more of the glue. The B6000 glue that I have used here will set roughly about 1 to 2 minutes and fully cured within the next day. As you can see, the glued edges are not as pleasing to see, but you will not see them once you have poured in your paints. I measured some 0.7 milliliter for each of the two half pan compartments, while 1 milliliter for each of the 3 compartments for the full pan. After curing for a day, you can finally pour in your paints into the compartments. Now do plan which partnering pigments that you will be putting into these compartments. I've been planning which pigments to combine for these segmented pans in anticipation with much detail, as you can see, like partnering warm and cool versions of each color. And these colors should be the ones I occasionally use or for modifying other colors. The areas of the open top of these partition pans and their volume capacity are reduced by half. However, I found that even my usual number 8 round brush can fit to pick up the pigments. My most used or staple colors onto unpartitioned pans for more volume. And of course, you don't want them running out easily. So it's been a pleasant experiment with having more than the usual number of pigment choices. It cuts off some of the time in mixing color variants that I need. Now, I don't set up an easel when I'm sketching on location and would be just standing up or sitting down holding my watercolor palette, sketching, and with a water brush to sketch. So this gives you a wider range of pigment choices. Probably you want to experiment with them or you're testing them like me. I found that cutting portions and transferring solid pigments from individual commercial pans or watercolor sticks are the easiest to place into these partition pans. Whereas you need to wait for the poured pigments to dry a bit if you don't want a mess when you're carrying it in your bag. Another thing about these segmented pans is that you can assemble a mini DIY set with much more pigment choices. You can use an empty mint tin box or calling card box. With the smallest Altoid box, in this example, I can accommodate 8 pigments. This is ideal for a smaller setup if you don't have a big area to work. You have more variety of pigments on the go and have a very compact set for your EDC needs to paint anywhere at any time. The downside of these segmented pans are that limitation of the volume of paint that you can pour into the compartments. Brush size is limited to number 10 or 12 brush size. Although a number 12 tip portion can still pick up the paint, with a small paint volume means you can run out of paint faster or that particular pigment. So what do you think of this hack? Let me know in the comments below. If you found value with this video, please consider subscribing for more drawing and watercolor content in the future. Thank you for watching.